guys, thanks for stopping by Whiskey Throttle Media. Special day today for us. I've been chomping at the bit to get on one of these Varg machines from the Stark Future company. They're still pretty rare. I think they're finally getting to some dealers, but there was such a massive want for these things that I don't think production can keep up right now. So it's tough to find, to get them, get on them, especially for media. And so really excited to connect with Justin, the Southwest rep, today and get a ride on this thing. And just walking around it, and this is the first time I've actually had my eyeballs on an actual bike in person, and you start to notice one thing right off the bat is that the craftsmanship, the attention to detail on this thing is really, really elite level. Everything from the carbon fiber, you know, parts up here and little inlaid gold Stark emblems, and just everything. The detail, attention to detail is wild. And machine triple clamps that are beautiful and have the split in them. Brembo brakes, you know, everything about this thing is really high quality. Foot pegs, they're a stainless alloy, but it looks like a works peg you'd see on a race bike. So just, that was the first thing that really struck me. I was really blown away with just the craftsmanship of the bike. We started going over some of the capabilities of this thing. You have the ability to, right here on this phone pops right out. Every bike comes with a phone, and on here you can adjust the way that this thing works, from your engine brake to the amount of power. You know, you can dial this thing down to 10 horsepower, so a skinny little kid or you know, whatever could ride it. I mean, you could make it very user friendly, all the way up to 80 horsepower, which I did ride today at the end of the day, and I'll get into some of that, which is all anybody wants, I promise you. So just some really cool stuff going on with this thing. And we'll get into some of that walk around stuff too later here. But there's a really neat way, like the chain adjuster works. The chain adjuster blocks have a Torx wrench that fits in the back, and it actually clicks just like a clicker. So you match the number of clicks on either side rather than just eyeballing roughly where one side is versus the other. I've never really loved that. And I'm like, man, why hasn't someone thought of this before? This is a great idea to make sure that both sides are lining up right. It seems so simple, but it's taken till now to have somebody make it happen. So very cool. Also, KYB Triple S suspension. You can, from the factory, when you order one of these things, choose a spring rate that suits you, which is something, again, like, wow, very, very customizable for you. Comes in red, white, or gray. And there's very neat touches. They're doing a good job. So let's get down to brass tacks here. How was this thing on the track? We started, he didn't want me getting too carried away. We started with a power combination that's basically equivalent to a 250F. And then that was one, and we had all the way 2, 3, 4, 5 map. And the 5th map was at 65 horsepower, so not all the way. And he's just kind of found that's the sweet spot for most people. And there's some audio clips of me getting on the bike, and just the first couple laps, I'm laughing under my helmet. I'm smiling, and just I expected it to be good, but it definitely exceeded what my expectation was. The power comes on, you know, in electric bikes I've ridden in the past, it seemed like it was kind of all or nothing, like on or off. This has a very nice progression to, as you roll the throttle on, it doesn't jump out from underneath you. It comes on immediately. The throttle response is incredible, but it builds, right? So kind of like a combustion engine would. It builds a little bit, and then as you start adding more horsepower, there's still a build, but man, it builds faster and it builds harder. And so you can find what suits you based on your weight and your skill level. But when that thing starts to build and the power comes on, I mean, it's impressive. And I was blown away. I'll just say that, with the way that the motor feels and the way the thing works. Now, there are some different characteristics to it. I was wondering, like, and I kind of didn't really scrub a lot of stuff today because I'm like, is it going to come back? It doesn't have all of that spinning mass inside that would give you a typical gyroscopic feel, right? So if you do like an oppo, right, it's going to just come back naturally on you. I think that it does, just not as much, and so it's something you have to adapt to, I think. But it's very sensitive to throttle application or brake application in the air. And I was told that before I went out. You hit a jump, if you're like kind of front end low and just a quick blip, I mean, the front end pops right up. And vice versa, if you're high and you tap the rear brake, it's very sensitive to those changes in the air. It flies stable. We set the engine brake to kind of where they thought the sweet spot was, which is about, what was it?
60, which is about a 450.
About 60 on here is what the setting was, which kind of equates to what a 450 is-ish. And that, for me, was very comfortable. But you can add or decrease that if you want it more two-strokey, or you like a lot of engine brake for some reason, you could do that right in here. So once you get just comfortable with it, it's stable. It just takes a little bit of getting used to. And I was able to jump everything out here. It's just a little bit difficult not having the RPM sounds to know where you are in the medium power. You just have to get comfortable with the way that the power applies and then know where you're at, how much throttle you need. So it does take a little time, I'll say that. The suspension on this thing worked great. It was a little firm for me initially. We just opened up some compression clickers. This is KYV stuff, it's really good. And if it already comes sprung for you, I mean, you should be able to just run it stock. It's really good stuff. And worked great for me. Bumps, big jumps, no issues whatsoever. The one thing that I think I needed to just get used to was, because there's no sound, you just kind of keep getting into the throttle, and when you come out of a turn, your instinct is to just bury it. And depending on where you're at with horsepower, that can be way too much. Like you need to learn to feed it based on the feel of what the tire's doing, not the lack of sound that you're hearing, and that just comes with getting used to it. But I found myself at times just wanting to get into the throttle too hard, and the back end is, breaking loose. So it's just a different feel, but it allows you to focus on kind of where you're going and your lines and your technique and your body positioning, because you're not thinking about shifting, you're not thinking about the clutch. It's really eliminating a couple of those big things that would consume your thoughts. We rode this model that has a foot brake. It does come with an optional hand brake. So if you wanted the rear brake to be up here on your left and have no foot pedals, you can do that. Maybe the bicycle crowd might like that, or new riders, they might get comfortable with that. For me, obviously, I'm comfortable with a foot brake, and a couple of the characteristics about it that stood out for me. An insane amount of horsepower, all the power you could possibly want. Because you don't have all the mass of this thing, it turns so easily. I was able to, if I wanted to just dart down, it's like, I don't know, it turns so easily. And then you have 100% torque at 0 RPM, so you don't need run up to a jump. You can jump things right out of a corner, no problem. Depending on where your power is at, right? Just keep pumping it up, and you could jump a Supercross triple from the inside every time, all day long. There's lots and lots of power. So you just, again, it gives you a lot of options to ride different lines. It really made it fun, and it is heavy when you pull it off the stand. 255, I want to say 250, 255, but it doesn't feel that on the track. It feels lighter than a 450, again, because you don't have all that spinning engine mass of a crank. It feels more nimble. Jumping it, I think the weight actually helps the stability of the bike. And it's funny because as we rode the Hep Suzuki bike last week, Larry Brooks was talking about how we don't really worry about weight. We want some weight. It helps the bike feel planted. And I think that applies to this thing too. If they knocked the weight down somehow to 20 pounds, I think it would start to feel kind of loose. I think the weight actually kind of helps it feel planted and stable as you're flying it through the air. So all in all, really just blown away with this thing. We rode, it was kind of hard to tell battery lifetime for me because I wasn't out here just hammering a motor the whole time. We were shooting sections and shooting video, and I was coming back in, stopping, and a lot of that. So probably total time was an hour of riding, or close to, before I ran the battery down to 20%. When you hit 20%, it kind of, you need to start being careful. It doesn't go into limp mode till about 10%, but if you've got to make it back to your truck, if you're far away or whatever, about 20%, they want you to start being heads up. The display goes yellow, so it kind of gives you a warning. So I got to 20% at about an hour, but it was on and off riding, it wasn't full throttle. Spoke with Justin Bogle this week, who had ridden it and loved it. He did 35 minutes hard at Paula in the morning, deep track, and got down to about 25% battery life in 35 minutes. So that gives you some some indication of, you know, a high level pro on a deep track that's going to draw a lot of battery, about 35 minutes. And then your charge time, it really varies on how you're charging. If you're on 110, it's going to take a while. 240 was what, a minute, for about a percentage for every minute ish. So if you, let's say you wrote it down to 80% first time you went out, if you have a generator or something that can produce 240, or you can charge it off of another EV, you're looking at a minute, you know, 20 minutes, you're back to full charge. So there are some practical ways, if you have a generator that can produce that kind of electricity, your battery life isn't really an issue in terms of recharge. Now, again, if you're trail riding, you can bring this power down to way down, right? And still have plenty of power, and you can spread your battery life out for a couple hours if you're just cruising through trails. I think for most people, they're going to find that kind of where I was, you know, map 1, 2, or 3-ish. And I'd say the average guy is going to get, if he went solid the whole time, he'd get easily an hour out of it. And I don't think most people are riding an hour, right? They're riding 20 minutes at a time-ish, probably, would be my guess. So that was something that obviously I had big questions about, is, well, what about the battery life and recharge time? And if you're on 110, it does take a while. But if you go home, you just stick it into 110, it's charged overnight easy, right? So, and you can bring the 110 generator out and just keep bumping up the numbers. That if you come in and take a 20 or 30 minute break, well, you're going to obviously build up some battery power over that 20 or 30 minutes. And it also has regen. I thought this was pretty neat. Out here in Kauai, coming from some of the top of the hills, I'd coast down and I'd watch the battery life jump up 2-3% from coasting from the top all the way down if we were shooting a section. So I thought that was interesting, just that you can actually ride it in such a way, like if you're going up a hill, just don't stay in the throttle real deep, just kind of cruise, and then as you come down, it'll regen, and you'll kind of learn how to save the battery, make it last longer. So our first day on this, I wish I had more time. I really want to spend some more time on it because I had so much fun, and the places to ride that this is going to open up, to me, is what's really exciting. Whether that's indoor venues, backyard tracks, I don't want to say illegal places, because of course we would never tell you to do that, but places where noise has become an issue, and it has become an issue. It's closing tracks down left and right, and this is a really fun solution to that. So really stoked on our first day on this thing. I wish I could take this home, but they are rare right now, so we're going to try to get some more time on it, maybe later in the year. But I hope this was a decent first impression for you guys and gives you a little feel for what our initial impression was, and blown away, I guess, is the bottom line. Very, very impressive bike, and excited to see what they do down the road, and we'll try to get some more, maybe a project built here down the road. It's going to be a little while, but be cool to build one of these into a fun project and show you guys what it's capable of with suspension done in valve and graphics, and just really pimped out. So thank you guys for tuning in, appreciate it. Huge thank you to the Stark Future Company. These guys really impressed me today. Thank you to Justin, who came out and led the test. Looking forward to riding this thing some more. We'll see you guys next time.
Thing's fucking ridiculous.